So, good morning everyone. This is the thing that we need to know about the youth and the globalization. So, after a few years and reflecting on the young people and where they are going to do, they know what is going on in this earth and the world, and I question to myself, how do we start the new phase of our globalization? I ask myself again, what is my contribution to this world and how are other young people who don't know what they are doing or purposes in their life? So when I was a leader in my past school years, this is the story. So I was able to serve every trait of the young people. I can say that everyone has different traits, right? They care about the world and others are still looking for themselves. Let's see where the word of a young person like you goes. Globalization has numerous consequences for your cultures. The increase in media streams has resulted in global consumerism in this culture. Young people and the world, they see more of the effect or so concerned about the negative consequences of globalization, such as unequal distributions of wealth and environmental degradation. This question, how does globalization affect their life? So, let's see. For others, in many instances, quality of their life has improved for those who live in developing nations. In the years since the Second World War, many governments have adopted free market economic systems, vastly increasing their own productive potential and creating new opportunities. So let you introduce for international trade and investment. Governments also have negotiated, right, dramatic reductions in barriers to commerce and have established international agreements to promote trade in goods, services, and investments are the things to taking advantage of the opportunities in foreign markets. So let's talk about foreign markets. Corporations have built foreign factories, right? And established production, marketing arrangements with foreign partners. So define futures of globalization, therefore, is an international, industrial, and financial business structure. And let's see what is the negative effect and the positive effect. Many commentators argue that globalization is primarily an economic process, but is one that clearly has profound social implications. There is evidence suggesting that, at least in some cases, that higher wage and employment characteristics of globalizing countries such as China, India, Uganda, and Vietnam are closely linked to poverty reduction. Health and education provisions has improved in many developing countries that have been more actively involved in the globalization process in Brazil, Egypt, and Malaysia. For example, infant mortality was reduced by an average of more than 30% during the 1990s. So compared with an average decline of 12% for all developing countries. So like that, you see the difference between that. So, however, in the least developed countries with a combined population of 2 billion, overall economic growth has declined and poverty has been rising, which are critical consideration in the larger. So the context of global development. For many development nations, globalization has led on improvement in standard of their living through improving roads and transportations, right? Improving the healthcare and improving education that needs to do due to the global expansion of corporation. Why some young people prefer to see the negative happening in globalization? Sad to say, because he has his point of view of their environment. Therefore, a positive outlook is reinforced by the people sitting down. When you say the better for effect on a young person will be so that the knowledge what they should do in globalization will expand even more, right? The more they listen to themselves, when say they will see the effect of globalization in their life, as a student, globalization enhances the student, like you, ability to acquire and utilize knowledge to think independent, to exercise appropriate judgments, and to collaborate with others to make sense of new situation, right? The role of the youth is simply to renew, to refresh, and to maintain. Youth have a role to renew and refresh the current, right? So the status of our globalization, including leaderships, innovations, skill, etc., youth are expected to advance the current technology, educations, politics, peace of the country is the important, right? So they think is and globalizations promote as free flow of people, ideas, and products across national boundaries. Individuals will be more undefined as global citizens and less prone to xenophobic attitude. They should, as young people, is what is your role in the globalization in this strategy, working in adult partnership. Youth or young people can create powerful, destructive strategy that promote globalization, social change, their creativity and the energy combined with knowledge, ability, and determination can shape organizational cultures, right? Technological application and to the social norms. So, in effect, globalization can intensity social divisions. Intensity as young people are struggling to establish themselves in a new social context that sometimes intimidating adult world. So, they may be perceived as being particularly vulnerable to the threat of segregation or inclusion. However, in analysis of young people relationship with globalization, two, two key points must be borne in mind. The first, there is a tendency to assume that the effects of globalization and that globalization is a process. So the next is, when say globalization in the process, the young people react to rather than actively negotiate, right? So globalization is ultimately as complex as young people's lives are multi-dimensional. The combination of the two initiatively creates an inclusive. So when say and help makes young people's transitions are to vary or varying degrees becoming increasing open-ended, but that open-endedness is introducing an enormous assortment of complications that are making young people's life more difficult than ever. So, as World Bank, they said, we are convinced that globalization can will be introduced and those contribute to their environment. So to develop that, we cannot say ignore those who are left out, right? Nor can we fail to recognize how much better developed progress could be. 83 young people's current experience of globalization is largely and inevitably negative. Globalization does offer opportunities, but one young person opportunity will inevitably the another loss. The key is whether this represents a price worth paying. In the years to come, the relative achievements of globalization will be judged in a part by how far young person or the other person, people have been successfully assimilated into the global processes of social, economic, culture change, right? So they can see youth have an ambitious relationship with the globalizing world, both economically and culturally. When you say four effects of globalization on the lives of young people are discussed below in more detail, right? So the distribution of employment opportunities, migrations, youth cultures, and consumers are in global citizenship and activism. And the factor is the cycle of changing every year. So do you see yourself is how you to develop the globalization? Or the thing is the power of youth is the commonwealth for the entire world. The basis of young people are the base of our past. So our present and our future. No segment in society can match with the power. So when you say the power idealism, atheism, and courage of the young people. So being open to broad constituents with further kind of great acceptance of globalization, right? So, but for the challenging for this is other young people is running changing of the culture of our globalization, which is what is the balances of what shows the changes of cultures, the difference of cycle of globalization. So this is my question to young other people. How you can help with the globalization if the world we live had intensified corruption in this world? And how do you handle yourself? Thank you for listening.